In New York State, if you're a tenant and you lose your eviction housing case, it can still take a landlord more than a year to evict you. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of New York State, and it has to do with a housing law that was recently passed that makes it so that a tenant can ask the housing court for up to a year to find new housing if they lose their eviction case. Now, can you believe it can take that long? I do, okay? Now, I've already talked about the backlogs in a lot of the courts, and, I've talked about different runarounds that the tenants can give in order to extend the eviction process. But this is a little bit different, okay? This is actually a New York State law that says that, hey, tenants, they need time to be able to find new equivalent housing to what they had already. And in my mind, it's idiotic. It's absolutely idiotic because people are going to take advantage of it, okay? They take advantage of every single law that's on the books. The bureaucracy has basically enabled tenants to be able to scam landlords, abuse the system, and not have to pay rent. And that's why I'm against a lot of these new laws, okay? They don't really take into consideration the fact that, hey, you're putting a huge burden on the landlord. You're putting a burden so bad on the landlord, in fact, that, they can put them into bankruptcy or financial ruin. And they don't care. It's like they just don't give a crap. And I'm sick of it. I'm absolutely sick and tired of the nonsense that landlords have had to go through for, years. Okay, I've been talking about these new laws that they're always putting on the books, all the time. And I haven't seen any law that benefits a landlord. I mean, I guess I have seen a couple of laws that benefit landlords, usually coming out of states like Texas, okay, where they seem to think that, hey, you know what, maybe you should be able to have property rights and have control of your own properties. But you know what, places like New York, they're slowly whittling away at the few property rights that landlords have, and I'm sick of it, okay? I think that landlords up in New York deserve better. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. What you think. So what do you think of a law that gives tenants time to find equivalent housing if they are evicted, okay, up to a year? Now, who in their right mind would think this is a good law? I don't know. To me, it seems like anyone who thinks that a landlord should be forced to have a tenant in their property for a year beyond their eviction, I mean, it's illogical. It's absolutely illogical, and it's not the landlord's responsibility to be a social worker, a public housing provider, or a homeless shelter. So stop trying to force us to do things we don't want to do, okay? That's it. That's what this really comes down to. You're trying to force a landlord, a property owner, a business owner to do things that they don't want to do. Stop it. Let's get into the article. This article is coming from WYRK.com, and it says it can take 1 year for eviction in New York State in 2024. Let's see what the article says. There is a new law in New York State that allows tenants to stay in the home they are renting even if they do not pay. The eviction process in most municipalities takes up to an entire year by the time you file, go to court dates, and then schedule an eviction. If you know anyone who owns a rental property, hopefully things are going well. New York State has put a ton of new laws in place to make things more clear in a ton of different aspects of the landlord-tenant relationship. We just went through with the process that took nearly 1 year. Here are some of the reasons that might hold up an eviction notice in New York State. So yeah, ridiculous, okay? And like they said, it could take up to a year to go through the entire process, but that is before you get, the final order from the judge, right, or from the court. So when you get the order from the court, now, according to this new law, they have up to a year to find a new place. Let me continue with the article and they'll explain a little bit better. If you have someone who is a horrible tenant, look how long they can legally and technically live in your rental unit. The new Attorney General, Letitia James, has a section outlining new protection for evictions, according to the New York State website. If you lose a housing case and the judge orders your eviction, you can ask the court for up to 1 year to move if you can show that you cannot find a similar apartment in the same neighborhood. The judge will take into account your health conditions, whether you have children enrolled in school, the hardship on the landlord if you remain, and any other life circumstances that could affect your ability to move. So basically, you have an eviction order and you can ask the judge for up to a year to find new housing in the same neighborhood, okay? And based on your health condition. So I guess if you have a disability, or maybe you're suffering from an illness, well, guess what? Landlord has to suck it up. You don't have to pay rent, and you can just sit there for as long as you want, not paying, and the landlord just has to eat it. If you have children enrolled in school, well, it's August right now, right? School in my school district where I live started a couple of weeks ago, okay? So my kids are enrolled in school right now, and so I guess if I stop paying the rent right now and I'm ordered evicted, well, my kids get to stay all the way until June of next year because we don't want to take them out of school. And let's see here. Cannot find a similar apartment in the same neighborhood. Okay, well, can't find, you know what? I'm getting evicted from this place. I can't find another 2-bedroom apartment in right here in this block. So therefore, I get to stay for the next year until maybe, hopefully, another 2-bedroom in this block opens back up. If you can't tell, I am being very sarcastic right now because this is stupid. This is absolutely stupid. I can't believe that this sort of law would even have passed. But you know what? People are lacking common sense, okay? They're lacking common sense because if you looked at this from the perspective of any other type of business, right, where you're forced to provide a service to somebody without getting paid, and when, oh, well, you know what? Let's use the car example. I love using the car example, okay? So basically, you're leasing a car. And you missed the car payment. So the car dealership wants to take the car back. And they're like, wait, no. You cannot take your car back, even though this person isn't paying you, right? Until this person is able to find an equivalent car. Like, what? Like I said, this logic, it doesn't make any sense, but they always use it for landlords as though, we have to suffer a special punishment for choosing this business. It's ridiculous. The new law strengthens protections for tenants against retaliatory evictions and increases penalties for landlords who illegally lock tenants out of their homes. Now it is important to keep in mind that there is a complete other section for evictions that are for non-paying tenants with even more specifications. So, of course, they're always talking about landlords who are illegally locking tenants out of their homes, right? Essentially performing what they call illegal evictions. Now, why would a landlord feel like their only course of action is to lock a tenant out of their home? Well, because the legal eviction process is so long and so frustrating, right, that the landlord feels like their hands are tied, like they have no other course of action to get rid of bad tenants other than to lock them out, okay? Basically, they created the problem. They create the problem where landlords feel like they have to go through these sort of actions in order to get rid of bad tenants by making the legal eviction process so cumbersome, so slow, and so expensive that landlords are willing to take the risk to go through, illegal evictions. So you created the problem, and now you're sitting there like, well, why are landlords doing this? They don't even ask that. They never ask that question. Why would a landlord go through with an illegal eviction? Why? It's not that they're evil. That's a stupid. It's not that they're greedy. That's stupid. If you think that all the landlords doing that are evil and greedy, you're an idiot. You should have asked them, like, well, why are you doing this? Well, You know what? I changed the locks on the place, and I did go through this illegal eviction because the tenant took advantage of me, trashed my place, didn't pay me. They owe me $30,000, and there's such a bad court backlog that they've been sitting in my house for the last 2 years not paying rent, and I'm about to have to declare bankruptcy and lose the house that I live in because I'm trying to keep this place up. I'm sure that that's the sort of story you would hear if they had ever actually talked to some of these landlords, but they don't. They don't. So anyway, interesting article. I'll put a link to the article in the description down below. Let me know what you think in the comments, okay? Is New York, are their laws ridiculous? What do you think?